Hi there, it's Deborah Irene coming to you on Friday, June 26, 2020 for story time. It's been a while since I've done a live session with you, so I thought today was a good day. When I started doing this back in the spring, I brought you to my outside patio and garden area to share some things I wanted to do for this spring and summer. And so I want to give you an update on those things. And I thought I would do that at the beginning before I get into my story. That might give a few people a chance to jump on here before I begin reading the story. So some things that I did for the first time in many years was I planted a few flowers. So I want to turn the camera around to show you that they flourished a little bit, maybe not quite as big as I had hoped, but I really do like these flowers on my porch patio. I have some petunias and some sweet potato vines. I wish they would vine a little bit more and kind of go down over the blocks, but I still enjoy them. I don't know why about everything I bought this year is purple and white, but that's just the way it turned out. So I've received a lot of compliments from people on my flowers and how it's beautified the area. Okay, now here's a little tomato. I've got a little story about that. I'll tell you in a little bit about that tomato. So there are my flowers. Now I also bought 2 hanging planters, and so this was exciting. This is the first one. These are wavy petunias, and shortly after I put this up, I discovered a bird or birds had built a nest in it. So I almost let the thing die because I was afraid to water it. And I've had so much fun watching these birds this spring. So I think it was either a family of wrens or finches. I think wrens, but I can't quite decide what they were. And this bird laid an egg a day for 5 days. And so she had 5 eggs in this nest, and they finally hatched. I watched them grow up, and then oh my goodness, they didn't want to get out of that nest, and there wasn't room for them, but they finally did all fly away. And then one night, I was sitting out here on this patio, and I was looking up at this other smaller planter that I had put up. I think they're also petunias. I don't know everything about gardening and all that. And I saw a couple of birds fly into that, and it looked like one had a twig in its mouth. So the next day I pulled it down, and sure enough, I had another bird's nest. And now there are 4 little white eggs in that. So I'm going to have more baby birds. So I think they're wrens. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, for Mother's Day, one of my sons and his lovely wife, to compliment my patio, my garden, and my flowers, they sent me these beautiful chimes. It's not real windy tonight. In fact, in Kansas City, it's hot and muggy, but aren't those pretty? Okay, so I don't want to stay on here too long tonight, so let me take you over to my garden. Now, the last time that I showed you my garden, I had just finished it. There was hardly anything here. So actually people think I'm quite the gardener, but I'm really not. I'm learning as I go. But look how full that my garden is. I have 3 big tomato plants. And they're thriving pretty well. We'll talk about the tomatoes in a minute, because if you look down here, I have 2 tomatoes down here that I've pulled off the vine, and they're not ripe, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I have 3 tomato plants there. Those were my initial plants. I have no clue if this is what you're supposed to do, but one of my sons said, hey, I would like some cilantro. So right down there, I've been picking off cilantro and putting that in some of my food. It's kind of seeding, I think they call that right now, but I'm still picking it off. Well, my grand dog, I have to tell you this little story real quick. On this middle tomato plant here, I had my grand dog for a few days, and he had never seen a water hose. He's just a year old, so he's still kind of like a puppy. And I was watering it, and he tried to jump up and bite the water and fell over on that plant, and I thought it was dead. I thought it was totally dead. And so I went out and bought another tomato plant because I didn't think it was going to make it. And I put it here. It's a different kind of tomato plant. Well, that one's got tomatoes on it too. Do you see those down there? Oh, I'm so excited about this. I feel like such a farmer. Well, originally, where this cilantro and that tomato plant is, I had planted a couple of cucumbers. And they looked to me like they had died. And that's why I put the cilantro in there. But then I thought, well, I'm just going to put them over here in the corner. I just had no clue. They looked dead. There was nothing left on the leaves. And now look, now I got a cucumber plant. Not only that, I have a cucumber already. So I'll show you that in a minute. So I had no clue that the squash and zucchini, okay, you know, remember, I like to write. I'm not a farmer. Look how big these things got. I've got 2 squash plants and a zucchini there. They're just kind of taking over everything. And then here I have 2 pepper plants, and it's hard to tell because they're the same color as the leaves, but I actually do have some peppers starting to form. There's one right there. I think that's the yellow plant, and there's several on this one, and I think this is the one that's red peppers. Anyways, they'll be turning their rightful colors, I think, pretty soon. Anyways, there's my garden. So I call myself kind of Farmer Debbie, even though I'm not a farmer. I have had so much fun doing this. And so let me tell you this little story about my tomatoes. Well, maybe I should show you this one that I kind of pulled off. I think I should. I was so proud of them, but several of my tomatoes on the bottom looked like they were rotting. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I had to get some advice from my sisters on what to do. Look at that. It's like, well, one of my sisters sent me a link and said that the, I don't know why they call them rotted blossom, I forget what it was called. She said, you need more calcium in the soil. So she told me what to get, and I'm hoping I still get some tomatoes from it. And this is what she had me get. I got this and I put it on yesterday, so I'm hoping that they survive. Tomato Tone, it has calcium, it's a fertilizer. Okay, so look here what I have harvested so far from my garden. Look at this big fat zucchini. So tomorrow, one of my sons is going to come over for dinner, and I'm going to make zucchinis sauteed with potatoes and onions, some cilantro on top, and who knows what else I'll put in that. And tonight, I'm going to fix a cucumber salad. With cucumbers, I wish I had my homegrown tomatoes. I don't. This is my one cucumber I already have. But I'm going to make a cucumber salad with some cherry tomatoes that I bought at the store, and some olives, and some olive oil, and I don't know, I'll see what else I'll throw in it with it. So that's what I'm going to eat tonight. Anyways, there's my garden. I kind of turned into be a little bit of a farmer. And I've had a good time with it. We're going to go inside now because, as you know, it's noisy at my place. So when I read this story, I've got us all set up here in my kitchen. While there's still some light because I don't want to turn the overhead light on. So we better get to reading our story. I had another story picked out and then realized the timing, what the date was. And so I said, I think I need to read this story. So let me kind of set the stage a little bit for the story I'm going to read to you from my book, Someday I Will Write. 4 years ago was my son's wedding anniversary, my middle son. And that was such a special day. But it was also a very emotional time because the day following the wedding, one of my very best friends who was with me the evening of the wedding passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. And so I wrote this short blog in July, I believe was when I wrote it, after she had passed away, about I called it a blog of emotions because I lost her. I mean, I one day was celebrating a wedding and the next day had to deal with the loss of a friend. But there were some other things going on in our country at that time, similar to what's going on today. If you go back and Google the summer of 2016, you'll see what I'm talking about. There were some things going on then too. And I have been very upset over the things going on in our country, and I've wanted to say the right thing and do the right thing, and I've been angry over some things. And so reading this blog, I think, has helped me to refocus. So I'd like to read this story to you. It originally was written as a blog. I think I'll tell you that part first. In July of 2016, and I ended up putting this in my book. Someday I will write in this section, A Time to Let Go. It's chapter 38, and I called this A Blog of Emotions. It was a busy spring for me. After 5 years of working on Mother's Story, I finally had pushed it off to the publisher and celebrated with a trip to spring training and the Great Southwest. When I returned, there was something else to focus on, my son's June wedding. So I enlisted the help of one of my best friends to help me shop for dress, jewelry, shoes for the mother of the groom. I hate to shop, so I needed some help. Success. Kathy and I have been friends for over 3 decades. You might recall a blog I wrote 3 years ago when I helped her move from Kansas City to Ketchikan, Alaska. What an adventure we had. Last August, I helped her move back to Kansas City. She had mixed feelings about returning. She longed to be 2 places at one time. It was nice to have her home. We went to Royals baseball games and visited friends. And she helped me get ready for the big June wedding. As always, she encouraged me with my writing and celebrated with me when I learned that while waiting for some final edits to be made to my soon-to-be published book, Helen's Heritage, a short story I had submitted to a magazine 4 years earlier would be published. And then the day was finally here, June 25. It was an unseasonably warm, windy day, but the wedding was beautiful. There was much to be thankful for and to celebrate. After a joyous reception, I dropped off Kathy at her home. Before I could say the usual, call me when you're safe inside, that's what I used to tell her, she adamantly asserted that she was not going to call me, and we both laughed. Less than 12 hours later, Kathy had departed this life without notice, without warning. Gone. You know, she was put on life support and she lasted a couple more days, but she was gone that day. She was gone that day, less than 12 hours after the wedding. I went back and read Ecclesiastes 3 again which I had experienced verse 4 all within that 12-hour period. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. I didn't have time to bask in the afterglow of the wedding. Then, a few days later, my world of emotions seemed small in comparison to national tragedies, injustices all around. I wanted to scream, can we all simply use common sense? Let truth reign. Can we pray for the wisdom of Solomon? And I've thought about those things recently. Can we not do that? They say it's all part of life and we find a way to go on. Amid tragedy for a multitude, my personal hurt is still very real. My personal joy is still very real. Individually, I want to do better and be better. And collectively, maybe we can make a difference in our country. At the end of the day, I think I will ask if I have loved today. Remember, this was written in 2016, and I feel like I just wrote it. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. And you might want to read that entire chapter, the chapter describing love. But here are a few verses from that. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. That's a hard one, huh? Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. That's what love is. I have to ask myself, am I doing that today? And so, here I am 2 weeks later. I miss my friend, and now it's been 4 years. I'm not sure the hole will ever completely close, but I did watch the mother-son dance video from the wedding and smiled. I wait to turn the pages of Helen's heritage and see a version of A House, a Home in a national magazine, both in only a couple of weeks. And this morning, I will return to the office and hope that the office is still there. Why? Because life, for some of us, continues on. And what more can I say other than I think we all could go back and read 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and ask ourselves, have we loved today? And are we going to love tomorrow? And this is Deborah Irene. Thank you for joining me for a live story time on June 26th in Kansas City. And now I'm going to go fix my cucumber salad for dinner. Thank you for being here. Have a good evening.